So Narada Muni, and then interested in that, so he went to see the local king, and he saw the elaborate worship of Vishnu that was taking place there. The king was a great devotee, and his citizens were also great devotees, so this is an ideal position for a king. So Narada Muni began to praise the king. He said, "You've got the most mercy of the Lord because you're acting as an ideal king, and you can preach to so many people by your good example and by your activities." So then the king said, "No, I'm not so, haven't had the mercy. The Devatas have more mercy. I'm very short-lived. My resources are limited. I live on this planet here, which is subject to the lower gunas, etc. The Devatas, they live for a very long period of time. They have very wonderful bodies. They are worshipped by us, the human beings. And the Lord also was present there, so they get much more mercy. So no human being, even a king, has got the mercy. If you want to see who's got the mercy of the Lord, you have to see the Devatas. So we know that the Devatas are above the earth, not only physically, but also in terms of gunas. So in our earth planet, it's said to be predominantly Rajagun. Of course, then we have Brahmanas, a few Brahmanas in Sattva. Most of the people are in Rajagun, and then also in Tamagun. But in upper planets, it's predominantly Sattva. So the Devatas are in Sattva-gun prominently. Consequently, they're very peaceful, no distress, very happy. We see in Bhagavad Gita that in discussing the gunas, Krishna says that one of the characteristics of Sattva gun is, of course, knowledge, spiritual knowledge. The other is sukha, happiness. So they're very peaceful, they're very happy. So the people in Svargaloka, the Devatas, therefore they must have more mercy because they're always peaceful and happy. They're free to travel wherever they want to go. They're not restricted. And they give blessings to all the devotees who worship them. So they must have great mercy for that. And among the Devatas, then, Indra is the king, so he gets the greatest mercy from the Lord. He's the most powerful person on Svargaloka. And Vamanadev personally comes, and he is the younger brother of Indra. So Indra's got a lot of mercy there because he's got the Lord as his relative. So, Narada Muni goes to Svargaloka. And there he sees Indra and Devatas, etc., and he sees the Lord there also. So Narada Muni praises Indra as being the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy, because the Lord is has come as his younger brother, and he's able to, I guess, his worship and protection. The Lord protects him at all times, so he's got great mercy, personal mercy of Supreme Lord. But then Indra also says, "No, I don't really have mercy. You may think that we're long-lived and we've got sattvic environment, etc., and we're very peaceful, but we live in insecurity. The demons come, like Bali. Bali kicked Indra out of his throne." So often the demons, they rise up, they get very strong, and they invade Svargaloka and they conquer the Devatas. So Svargaloka is not so secure after all, though generally we think it's very nice and whatever, but actually the people there live in insecurity. The Devatas are always insecure that the demons are going to come and kick them off the heavenly planets. So that's one thing. The other is the Devatas themselves have problems. They quarrel with each other. They have rivalry. And we often see stories in the Puranas of how this Deva took the wife of that Devata and whatever, and all sorts of problems up there, just like we have on Earth planet. So someone gets envious of somebody else and they have a quarrel or whatever, they curse each other. So it is not free of the problems that we have even on Earth. So it may look like sattva, but actually there's a lot of problems up there also. And it's full of fault, and therefore we see that the Lord himself, he had to take the Sudharma hall. He had to take the Parijata flower by fighting. He had to fight Indra to get the Parijata flower. So how we're getting the mercy of the Lord when Indra fights with him? In this way we see the Lord, and of course the Lord stopped the worship of Indra and Govardhana, etc. So how is it that we're getting the mercy here? And though the Lord is there on Svargaloka, he's not there all the time. He disappears. And we don't know where he goes. And then he comes back to worship. Then he disappears again. So he's not constantly with the Devatas also. Yeah. So it's described how sometimes when the Lord's not there, he goes to another planet called Vaikuntha, or Ramapriya within this world. There's a Vaikuntha which was manufactured by one of the Manus. Not one of the Manus. In the Manvantara reign, one of the avatars of the Lord produced a planet for his mother called Vaikuntha. So the Lord goes there sometimes. Sometimes the Lord goes to Dhruvaloka, because we know that up there where Dhruva is, the Lord also resides. And sometimes he's on Svetadvip, which is in the Milk Ocean, down on our Bhumandala. So the Lord's not always in Svarga. And of course, then his avatar, he's in Vrindavan, Mathura, Hastinapur, Indraprastha, etc. He's in all places on earth also. So he's not constantly in Svargaloka. Yeah. So in this way, the Lord goes throughout the universe, and he's not always in one place. So he can be in Dhruvaloka, he can be Vaikuntha, which is above Satyaloka, but within the universe. He can be at Svetadvip or other places as well. So Indra says, I am not the best devotee. I don't get the most mercy. Brahma, he's at the top of the universe. He gets the most mercy. We see actually Svargaloka's way down at the bottom here. And Brahmaloka's way up the top, Satyaloka's way up the top, very, very far up. So, though we might think Svargaloka's high up, actually it's quite low when we look at the whole universe. So, Indra says that Brahma gets the most mercy. He is in the highest position. We know that Vishnu was there on the Garbhodak ocean, and from his navel comes a lotus, and from the lotus comes Brahma. So Brahma is the son of Vishnu. So that's more mercy. Not just the younger brother, but he's actually the son of Vishnu. So, of course, Brahma is also the creator of the material world, and he helps in its destruction also. So he's got much more power than Indra. And in fact, there are 14 Indras and 14 of all the other Devatas within one day of Brahma. And Brahma lives for 100 years. So the life of Indra is very, very short compared to the life of Brahma. Brahmas are much, much greater than Indras. So therefore, Brahma is a much greater devotee, we can say, than any Indra. And on Brahmaloka, there's another form of Vishnu present there, and he's always there. So Brahma gets much more mercy. And of course, he's also glorified as being non-different from Vishnu. Sometimes we hear, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva like this. So they all kind of get equated together. So Brahma's got a very high position, almost like Vishnu. So Narada goes to Brahmaloka. There he sees there is a form of the Supreme Lord there. It is a form of Vishnu with 1,000 heads, a very magnificent form of the Lord. And the priests are offering prayers in Sanskrit, Vedic prayers, and making offerings to this Vishnu form. And Narada Muni sees Brahma there, and he praises Brahma as having the most mercy from the Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord is there constantly. But then Brahma also said, no, I don't get I don't have the most mercy. I'm just a servant of the Lord, and I'm not full of knowledge because I'm subject to Maya. I tried to fool Krishna and took all away his calves and cowherd boys. So I'm subject to Maya. I'm not such a great person at all, even though I'm much greater than the people on earth and Svargaloka, etc. Still, I'm subject to Maya and ignorance. Yeah. And though others below may praise this planet as being almost indestructible, etc., that my position is, long-lived, and I'm a controller, I'm a creator, etc., I also have the same problem because I fear the destruction of my planet. So in other words, Brahma lives for 100 years. Some people on this earth may live 100 years also. So it's just only relative. So Brahma's also afraid of what's going to happen when, the 100 years is up. I also have to die. I have to give up my body. My planet gets destroyed. So he has this insecurity there, even on Brahmaloka. And because I'm a controller and a creator, etc., then I also have a false identity. I have this false ego, and I become proud of my position. And I worship the Lord to get liberated. I'm thinking of going for liberation. I also offend the Lord. I gave benedictions to Hiranyakasipu so that he could become almost invincible. I gave benedictions to Ravana, and again he fought with Rama, so I'm not so intelligent. I give benedictions, but they backfire, and then they offend the Supreme Lord. So how can I be getting mercy from the Lord if I just give all these benedictions and then these big demons offend the Lord? So here on Brahmaloka we have a form of the Lord, and people worship him and accept the offerings. But he says actually the Lord accepts all these offerings that we offer with great pomp and prayers, not out of affection, but simply as a duty. Because people should follow the Vedic injunctions, so they offer these Vedic prayers, and then the Supreme Lord accepts it because that's how Scripture Scripture tells people to do that, so therefore the Lord accepts for that reason. It's not out of real affection. So, in this way, Brahma says, I'm not actually getting the mercy of the Lord. So not only he gives benedictions to demons, and then the demons offend the Lord, Brahma appoints devatas, and the devatas also offend the Lord. So Indra offended Krishna by fighting with him because Krishna wanted the parijata. Kuvera also, and Yamaraj, etc. They all offend the Lord in some way. So Yamaraj took the son of his teacher, Sandipani Muni's son, so that was Krishna's teacher, so he offended him in that way. And of course Indra attacked Govardhana hill, and etc., and tried to prevent him from taking the parijat flower. So all the devatas that I appoint, they also offend the Lord. So in this way, how do I get the mercy? So Kuvera had to follow Shankachuta. Shankachuta tried to offend the gopis, or the women, so therefore Krishna had to attack him. Varuna took Nanda Maharaj, etc. So then he says, actually, she was a greater devotee than me. She was always dedicated to the Lord's lotus feet. He's very detached, unlike Brahma's got attached to his position. So she was very detached, and Brahma says, I have to aspire for liberation because I'm still attached to my material body. But he awards liberation, so she was in a higher position. He's completely free, because how could he award liberation if he were bound up by material energy? And even the Lord worships Shiva. So he has his abode beyond the universe. Of course he's in Kailash within the universe, but he has another abode beyond the universe. So Brahma is stuck within the universe, but Shiva's in a higher position. So he's got more mercy. So this is what Brahma says. So Narada Muni goes up to Shiva Loka, and there he finds Shiva. He is glorifying the Lord and dancing very happily. He's doing kirtan and in bliss. So Narada Muni praises Shiva and says, "You're the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy, because you're beyond even Brahma. You're higher than that." But then Shiva also says, "No, I don't want to hear that. I'm not the greatest devotee." So Shiva also says, I just try to get the mercy of the devotees, the Lord's servants. So though some people say that the Lord also worships Shiva, etc., it's just a pastime. And so there's a story that Krishna worships Shiva to get Samba as his son. There's a story told in the Mahabharata. This is a pastime, actually. He doesn't have to worship Shiva at all. And it said that Vishnu worshipped Shiva to get the Sudarshan Chakra. So there are stories like that, and then from that we may think that Shiva is greater than even Vishnu, whatever. But Shiva also gives benedictions, which turn out to be very harmful. And just like Brahma gives benedictions to demons, and then they do very offensive acts. So Shiva gave Banasura a benediction that he would only be defeated by someone equal to Shiva. And then finally he was defeated by Krishna. But Krishna was very merciful to him and made him an associate with Shiva after he cut off all of his arms. To the extent he had left 4 arms for him. So Shiva also gives boons that are faulty and destroy the demons. So the story of Sudakshana is told because his father was killed at Kasi. So he worshipped Lord Shiva to destroy the killer of his father. That was Krishna. So Shiva gave Sudakshana a boon that he could produce a fire that could be used against any person who did not respect brahmanas. So therefore I thought, okay, now I can go out and kill Krishna. But then the boon, of course, was a little bit faulty because, well, there's a trick in there, that a person who respected brahmanas could not be killed. So finally he tried to attack Krishna, and then Sudarshan came and destroyed Sudakshana and Kasi. So Shiva also says that I also fought with Krishna when he tried to take the Parijata flower from Indra. And when Aniruddha stole Usha, and then Shiva was also fighting with the Supreme Lord. So he says, I don't get the mercy because I have to fight with the Lord also. And Shiva also says, I am influenced by Ahankara. Actually, Shiva's in charge of Tamagun. We know that very well. He's also in charge of Ahankara. There's different devatas in charge of different things, like Chandra, the moon deity, is in charge of the mind. And so Shiva is in charge of Ahankara, which is equivalent to the greatest ignorance. So Shiva says, I'm in charge of Ahankara, I'm influenced by Ahankara, so how can I be very great? And Shiva says, actually, I also have done something. I've produced Mayavad philosophy because I come as Shankaracharya. So this is not a very good, nice benediction from the Lord that I have to produce a philosophy which is offensive to the Lord by saying that the Lord's form is illusory. So I have to introduce this philosophy. So what kind of mercy is that if I have to do this? So how can I be getting the mercy of the Lord to have to take such a role and produce a bad philosophy? And she says, okay, I bestow liberation, but what good is liberation? Because the devotees hate liberation, they criticize liberation, they avoid liberation. So that's not a benediction to have the power to bestow liberation, it's actually a curse. The devotees don't want it at all. So that's not also mercy. So Shiva said, the residents of Vaikuntha are the best devotees. They get the best mercy. And they can travel freely about giving out that mercy. They can see the Lord at all times in Vaikuntha. They have spiritual bodies, Satchitananda bodies, not subject to birth and death. But generally they prefer to stay with the Lord in Vaikuntha. So then Shiva suggested, if you want to see a devotee around here, go down to the earth planet and see Prahlad. He's a very, very great devotee. Some of them live in Vaikuntha, but here we have Prahlad. He's a great devotee and he lives within the universe. He was not interested in liberation, though Nrsimhadev offered him liberation. And Bali and his son Bhanu got benedictions because they were related to Prahlad. So Prahlad must be very great. So Shiva tells Nard to go to Sutala Loka within the universe and see Prahlad, because that's where Prahlad is residing. So we have all the planetary systems. So though Sutala Loka is it's a hellish planet because it's below the Bhuloka. It's third down there, the third planet down, so it's like a hellish planet. But Prahlad stays there. It's not so hellish after all, because we have Prahlad, a great devotee, staying there. So he said, you go see Prahlad and understand who's got the most mercy. So Narada Muni, of course Narada Muni can go anywhere. He doesn't have to fly, he can go at the speed of the mind. He thinks of where a place and he can go there, because he's got special powers. He's a Nityasiddha devotee with a spiritual body, so he can go anywhere within the universe or beyond the universe. So it's not difficult for him to go to see Lord Shiva beyond the universe and then come back down to Sutala Loka to see Prahlad. So he goes to Sutala Loka, and there he sees Prahlad and he begins to praise him. Prahlad had actually, we see in Bhagavatam how Prahlad, after Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakasipu, then he was still very, very angry, and everyone is afraid to approach. Even Lakshmi didn't want to approach Nrsimhadev because he was so angry. But then Prahlad came and he offered some prayers, and the Lord was very, very satisfied with him, and he was pacified. So that shows the great devotion of Prahlad. And though the Lord offered liberation, he also offered Vaikuntha, Prahlad requested only bhakti. So there was a very, very great devotee. But then Prahlad refused the praise. He said, I haven't got the greatest mercy. Whatever you're saying it's not symptoms of the Lord's mercy. Though I'm famous for smaranam, remembrance of the Lord, I only remember the Lord when I'm in trouble. And real mercy of the Lord is when he gives service to devotees like Hanuman. That's the greatest mercy. I get a kingdom down here on Sutala Loka. That's not a sign of his mercy. Also he says, you may think I'm a great devotee, but my prayers and my bhakti are contaminated by dry logic, because I come from a demon family, and generally the demons are more interested in impersonal liberation, so I get affected by that. So my bhakti is mixed with jnana. Though I'm in Sutala Loka, the Lord shows himself sometimes, but he's not there all the time. Because Vamanadev also is there on that planet. So he says that Hanuman is the best devotee. He gets the most mercy from the Lord. He gets to serve the Lord at all times. He's free of old age and death. He's got a spiritual body, and he gets to carry the Lord. He gets a very intimate service with the Lord. So Hanuman resides in a place called Kimpurusha Varsha, which is one of these places, Varshas, on our central island within the saltwater ocean. So Hanuman stays there, and he worships the deity of Ramchandra. This is Bhumandala with a saltwater ocean around it. In the middle is Mount Meru, At the bottom is Varsha, then there's the Himalayas, then there's a Varsha called Kimpurusha Varsha. So that's where Hanuman stays and worships Ramchandra. Above that's Hari Varsha. So Narada Muni went from Sutala Loka up to Kimpurusha Varsha. So Narada begins to praise Hanuman as being the greatest recipient of mercy, because he says you're the Lord's servant, his friend, his carrier. We see that Hanuman carries Rama. His seat, he uses as a throne. His flag, his umbrella, his canopy, his fan. He uses his tail also as a fan. His bard, that means he sings for him, sings his praises. His advisor, he gives advice to his doctor because he got medicine for him. His general fights for him. His best helper and expander of his infinite glories. So he's doing all sorts of wonderful services for Ramchandra. So he says you're the best devotee. Yeah. So Hanuman also says, no, I'm not the best devotee at all. I'm very wretched. I don't even have the presence of Ramchandra. I have a deity of Ramchandra, but I don't have the presence of Ramchandra. I'm always longing to meet Ramchandra. And he's neglected me, he's left me here. So the Pandavas are the object of the Lord's mercy because the Lord is with the Pandavas. So then Narada Muni thinks about the Pandavas, and Hanuman begins to glorify the Pandavas as being very great devotees. So Narada Muni glorified Hanuman because he gets all sorts of service, but then Hanuman glorifies the Pandavas because not only does Hanuman, he serves the Lord, Lord Ramchandra, but the Lord serves the Pandavas. He's their servant, advisor, messenger, charioteer, and court attendant. He even kept watch at night. He used to guard the camp at night for them and patrol it. He follows in processions. He offers them praise and obeisances. He bows down before them. He's constantly with them. So he is the greatest devotee. There's such intimate relationship between the Pandavas and Krishna. So Pandavas are the greatest devotees. They get the most mercy from the Lord. So this is what Hanuman realizes. So Narada Muni goes to meet the Pandavas in Hastinapur. So Narada Muni begins by praising Krishna as being Swayam Bhagavan, the source of all the forms of the Lord. The others are Amsas, and he's the original form. And he tells them how the Pandavas are favored by Krishna, who is the highest form of the Lord, greater than Vishnu or Ramchandra or Nrsimhadev. So Pandavas are getting the mercy of the greatest form of the Lord. And Krishna even says, a friend of the Pandavas is my friend and their enemy is my enemy. The Pandavas are my very life heirs. So Krishna is very devoted to the Pandavas. So when Yudhisthira and the other Pandavas hear this, then they say that is not correct. They deny the praise. So we actually suffer. Our friends have perished. Krishna is not constantly with us. Krishna is with the Yadus. He's not with us. So then Narada goes to see the Yadus at Dwarka. So he praises the Yadus because their abode is more magnificent than Vaikuntha. But then the Yadus say, actually Krishna's not here. Sometimes he goes away, we don't see him, he's with Uddhava, so we don't see him. So then Narada Muni goes to see, they praise Uddhava as the greatest. So why? Uddhava is with the Lord constantly, whereas the other Yadus are not. The Lord sends Uddhava on special missions like rescuing Samba. He's always serving the Lord directly in his private compartments. He gets the Mahaprasadam from Krishna. He massages Krishna's feet. And he even looks like the Lord. He's very similar to, in beauty to Krishna. When the gopis came, when Uddhava came to deliver Krishna's message to the gopis, when they saw him, they thought, oh, Krishna's come back, because he looked very much like Krishna. So he's got even a similar form to Krishna. So he's got the most mercy. So then Narada goes to see Uddhava. But he found Uddhava, the queens, Balaram, and Padmavati, who was Kamsa's mother, waiting for Krishna to wake up. And Krishna was sleeping and whatever. And then Uddhava, our Narada Muni speaks to Uddhava, and Uddhava says, actually, I'm not the greatest at all. The gopis are the dearest. They're the best devotees. They get the most mercy from Krishna. So Rukmini was also there, and she describes how Krishna sleeps at night, but when he's sleeping, he's dreaming of Vrindavan and the devotees of Vrindavan. He's not even in Dwarka anymore. So Krishna wakes up finally, and he's a little bit sad because he's back in Dwarka again. And he's still thinking of the people of Vrindavan. So then he asks them all, what should we do for the people of Vrindavan, because they seem to be suffering so much. So Uddhava says, actually, they only want Krishna. The only solution is that you must go there. You must go to Vrindavan. But that's a little bit difficult because people in Dwarka will never want him to leave. So very difficult for him to do that. So he says, actually, if you have compassion for the people of Vrindavan, then you have to go there, because nothing is going to satisfy them. They won't survive. So Uddhava, of course, understood this because he had gone to Vrindavan and witnessed the condition of the people there. Yasoda and Nanda were not eating. The gopis were, he heard, they talked to the gopis and he understood their condition. Everybody looked like they were dying. So he says, if you don't go back, then they'll all die. So they won't die, Balaram says, they won't die of starvation. They will die because of separation. Nothing physical can affect them, but if you're separated from them, then this will be their end. So, after hearing Uddhava's descriptions, everybody began to cry. So, Krishna and Balaram also were crying. All the people there were crying because they heard the description of the people of Vrindavan and how much they suffered in separation. And then finally all the Yadus were crying because of seeing the position of the people of Vrindavan and their separation from Krishna. Then Brahma understood something strange was happening there in Dwarka, so he came along with all the Devatas and the Vedas, and he had to make some arrangement because there was such lamentation taking place there. Brahma gave instructions to Garuda to take Krishna and Balaram with Rohini to this special place near Dwarka created by Vishvakarma called Nava Vrindavan. So it was a replica of Vrindavan. And there were even replicas of the people there, like Yasoda, Nanda, etc., and the cows, everything was there. Brahma instructed Garuda to take Krishna and Balaram there, along with the Rohini. And then Krishna would, recover somewhat. So actually, Krishna had fainted, and Balaram got his flute in a forest garden and put it around him, this flute, and then he woke up Krishna, gradually, of course. And when he woke up, then he was it looked like he was in Vrindavan. He was in this Nava Vrindavan, and he thought, oh, I'm in Vrindavan now. So he's very happy, and he saw Mother Yasoda there waiting with some sweets, and then he thought, I have to go out and herd the cows. So he didn't notice it was just a model, like a statue. And he took the sweets and he ran out of the place, and he was eager to herd the cows, etc. So there was statues of Nanda, Yasoda, Radha, everybody. So he was very happy. Trying to go out to herd the cows and everything like that. But then when he got closer, and then he looked out there in the water, he thought, this is the Jamuna River. But he looked over there and he saw, what is this? There's some buildings over there. And then he saw Dwarka. All the palaces of Dwarka were over there in the water. And the waves were not Jamuna's waves, they were the ocean waves. So then Krishna was a little disappointed. But he had got a little bit of bliss because he got this, a little bit of taste of Vrindavan that way. So then Balaram begins to speak to Krishna and tells him, actually, you still have a few duties to do here in Dwarka before you can go back to Vrindavan. So you have to kill some demons, etc. So then Krishna got a little pacified, and he recovers. So there's a little explanation why Krishna stayed, why he didn't return. So this is a little esoteric. So Krishna explains, I can't go back because even if I go back, you'll still have pain. Because when I come there and see them, then they'll always be thinking I'm going to go away again. Because of this thought of separation when I'm there, they only get more disturbed. So simply going there is not going to solve the planet. At the same time, not seeing me, they're also living in the fire of separation, and they're almost insane or dead. They're in a very difficult position. If I go, they're in pain. If I don't go, they're also in a type of pain. They're in such separation that if they see a patch of darkness like a tamal tree or something, then they think that's me, and they start kissing it, embracing it. This is the gopis, of course. So even if I stay with them, it's like I'm absent, because they'll worry about me being away, and then they'll think I'm away, whatever. So they have not returned. So, of course, there is a story in the Padma Purana to explain that Krishna had to keep his promise, so eventually he did go back from Dwarka after killing Dantavakra. The last demon was Dantavakra. That's the last demon that Krishna killed. After that, then he went back to Vrindavan. So that's described in Padma Purana. So he did go back finally. And everybody was very satisfied. So anyway, in this particular story, then Krishna begins to praise Narada. Narada had come looking for the devotees who got the greatest mercy from Krishna, and then he got finally up to Uddhava, and then Uddhava said, no, it's the people of Vrindavan, and particularly the gopis. So in this way, Narada Muni had his answer. So Krishna begins to praise Narada Muni because it is through Narada Muni that he was able to remember the people of Vrindavan even more. So he says, you've done me a great favor by coming here. When one is parted from those one loves, pure love makes one suffer within as if from a blazing forest fire. The burning pain creates a remorse that further deepens into irresistible sorrow. Thus one at first seems wretched. So this is the position of the persons in separation. So the gopis feel this. Krishna also feels this. But then he also says, this sorrow always transforms at last into an abundance of pleasure, which is praised as greater than the happiness of meeting, which is the most indescribable and which is pleasing to the mind. Only a person greedy for prem can understand this. So this is indicating that within separation, somehow it looks like sorrow, but somehow one gets great bliss, even though Krishna is not there, and it's greater than the bliss of meeting Krishna. So it's just incomprehensible for us to understand. It doesn't look logical, but this is the nature of this Vipralamba of the gopis. And it's the highest because there's the greatest bliss within that so-called sorrow of separation. So Krishna is in separation from the gopis in separation from Krishna, but also there is great bliss within that. They can only be realized by a person in prema. So Krishna feels gratitude to Narada Muni for reminding him of the great love of the people of Vrindavan, and particularly the gopis. So Narada Muni then became very happy because he got an answer to this question that he had, who gets the greatest mercy? So he began to praise Krishna, the giver of benedictions, with songs filled with names arising from his pastimes in Braja. So he was doing kirtan, playing his veena. So Narada got 3 benedictions. So the first one is to get, he wants the benediction of constant mercy, mercy at all times. Or that people will get the mercy at all times. Please grant that no one will ever feel he has enough of your mercy or devotional service or pure love for you, the reservoir of ecstasy. Obviously Krishna is willing to give mercy to everyone at all times. He says, my mercy, my devotional service, and ecstatic love for me all have this nature. That should be simply obvious. So at all times people can get the mercy of Supreme Lord. So Krishna explains to Narada that Narada had seen various devotees. He saw the householder with the shalagram, he saw the king, he went up to see Indra, he went to Brahmalok, he saw Shiva, he saw Prahlad, and he saw the Hanuman, he saw the Pandavas, etc., and then the Yadus, etc., and then finally Uddhava. So they're all perfect. Even though we say one is greater than the other, he said they're all perfect. They all can deliver the entire world. Each has received mercy. So it's only a matter of degrees. So we can never say that they're inferior in any way, but still, you can say there's the gopis got the greatest mercy, we can say that. But at the same time, we should never neglect any of these recipients. They all get the mercy in some way. They're all very satisfied. They're all perfect. So he asked for a benediction of how understanding who gets the greatest. Tell me who gets the greatest mercy. So knowledge of who's getting the most mercy. But then of course he already realized that the gopis got the greatest mercy. So that was a benediction which was already given. And the third benediction he wants to preach. I wish I may wander everywhere, always chanting, drinking the nectar of your name. Those most sweet names arise from the ocean of Gokul and spread the glories of your infinitely varied dress and ways of acting. As I wander, behaving like a madman, may I distribute joy to everyone in all the world. So that's the benediction he wants. Of course he already has it, but he asks for it again, so let me be a preacher. So then Narada Muni went back to Prayag, and he told this whole story to the sages there, who were saying, they were saying, you got the most mercy, etc. So then he went back and told this whole story. And after hearing that story, they became interested in serving Krishna. And they wanted also to be devotees of Krishna and develop that mood. Therefore they began worshipping Krishna according to Narada Muni's instructions. So then Parikshit tells his mother, you as well should always worship, desiring to be a servant of these gopis, dedicating yourself to the sankirtan of his names. You should constantly worship in pure love as the gopis did. this young cowherd boy, an ocean that yields the nectar of the rasa dance, in which the divine gopis fully surround him, entranced by pure love. So he's telling his mother, you should develop this worship of Krishna and the mood of the gopis, because that's the highest type of mercy. So that ends that section. That's the first story. Okay. In summary, it's of course quite long. I extended, but I just kind of summarized the thing. So, any question now?
Have you heard anything about if it's a literary creation of Sanatana Goswami,
or is it actual event?
Yeah.
You know, people often ask that. There's no I don't know, like explanation one way. I don't think any of the acharyas have commented on that, but in one sense, allegories and stories versus actual truth is probably also due to our limited materialistic type of mind, because everything is possible spiritually. So things which may look like stories can be truth on the spiritual level, because Krishna can do anything and devotees like Narada Muni can do anything. So therefore, though there may be stories from one point of view that Sanatana Goswami didn't actually see in the Puranas anywhere or whatever like that, still they become reality simply by the will of the Supreme Lord and the will of the great devotees. So in some universe probably it does take place, even if it hadn't taken place previously. It can be arranged like that, so it can take place anywhere within some of the countless universes we have. Yeah. In some day of some Brahma, someplace, it can happen also. So it is not impossible. So, spiritual things can become real with no difficulty.
Early on, you showed a chart of the universe with the different planets.
Mm-hmm.
I think Satyaloka is 120 million. Is that yojanas or kilometers?
I think it's yojanas, yeah. Yojanas, yeah.
So that would be,
Times 8, I guess. 8 for kilometers, is it? 8 miles or 8 kilometers?
I think it's mentioned the universe is 2 billion miles across.
Uh-huh. It's the same with the diameter and the height is the same, apparently.
But from
From the bottom of the Govardhana Ocean to the top of that, the top is the same as the width to the edge. Yeah.
So that the Govardhana would be that halfway.
Yeah, a little bit. The halfway mark is actually the sun planet. So the Bhumandala is a little bit below that, and I think. And then the Govardhana Ocean is below that, and then finally we get the very bottom. Was that it? No, there was another one someplace, wasn't there? Oh, yes, before that. There we are. So that's, the sun is in the middle, that blue line is, below that is the Bhumandala with Svetadvipa on it. Then below that you get the lower planetary systems. Then finally you get a space, then you get the top of the Govardhana Ocean, then you get the bottom of the Govardhana Ocean. So this is the sun is at the halfway mark, and everything else is below that.
Now, as you see, this whole story is about the mercy of Devi, the mercy of Krishna. Where you see all those devotees who are mentioned, they are doing so much in their activities, in their devotion, very prominent. So in order to get the mercy of Krishna, it's a reciprocation of their love and devotion in their activities. But in our sort of society, we have this term, causeless mercy. I think there's a little difference. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, we say causeless mercy. In one sense, it does have a cause, because if we don't have devotion, we don't get the mercy of Krishna. But causeless in the sense of no material cause. In other words, it's not motivated, that Krishna doesn't give you mercy because he likes likes the color of your cloth that day or something like that. It's because of the devotion. So in that sense it's causeless, but not because of material things. So that's how we have to take causeless. So obviously there is some reason, but even then there are some cases they don't seem to have a reason. For instance, Krishna causelessly gives mercy to Putana. And even though she's a big demon, she's not even a devotee, so it's not a response to her devotion, obviously, but he takes her to the spiritual world. And she gets prema there, so that is causeless in that sense. But then again, we can find a cause for that, and it's explained that because she dressed up like a gopi. So that just Krishna's like, oh, she's a gopi, so that was the mercy, why he gave the mercy. So it's a cause in one sense. Again, it's because, but not a material cause. It's just that Krishna decided that he got reminded of gopis, so then he took her to the spiritual world.
Well, you mentioned that all these personalities, they're able to deliver the world. And, in terms of you have Uddhava also there, and you have Uddhava Gita, and you have the Bhagavad Gita, the Krishna spoke to Arjuna, and you have Uddhava Gita. So if you put them on a scale, is one more important or more intimate in understanding?
Between the two of them, yeah. On one level, I would say Uddhava is a higher devotee because it's explained by Jiva Goswami, I think, in Gopal Champu there, that he is so high, even though he's a member of the Dwarka people, he can go to Vrindavan, whereas nobody else could from Dwarka. So he's got a dual role. He can be in Dwarka, or he can also be in Vrindavan with Krishna. So when Krishna goes back and he returns, he takes Uddhava with him when he finally does return. So he can go either place and stay either place, and because of his very, very high position of understanding and appreciating the people of Vrindavan. So he's a very, very special person. That would put him higher than Arjuna in one sense, because Arjuna never goes to Vrindavan. So in that sense maybe higher. But we see that the Bhagavad Gita is more famous and gets more emphasis, in spite of the fact that we do have Uddhava Gita within the Bhagavatam, and we emphasize Bhagavatam as the main scripture still. Bhagavad Gita gets a special emphasis, and then we have special commentaries by acharyas like Vishwanath and Baladeva Jabusam as well. Of course, then we get all the other Vaishnava acharyas also commenting on Bhagavad Gita. So it's got a very special significance in that way, that all different acharyas have commented on, and even Shankaracharya has commented on it. So it's got a special position as Praman that way. We see that the Uddhava Gita is more detailed. They have more details in there about Karma Yoga, Stanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Archana, and Bhakti. So in that sense, maybe we can say it's more valuable. But Bhagavad Gita, we can say, because it summarizes everything very nicely, and other acharyas also commented on it, therefore it got more preaching value to it. But it's equal value because it's all words of Krishna.
Can you explain the relationship between humility and devotion? How, as you advance, you become more humble and...
Oh, that comes up in the next story. And ultimately, the humblest people are the gopis. So the highest people have the most humility. So therefore, we can say it's essential to bhakti itself, but it's manifested to the highest degree in the highest devotees. So that's why we have in Shishastaka there, humble than a blade of grass. So to chant the name constantly, you have to start out with that humility. And then when you get to prema and up to maybe Madhurya Rasa, and then you get that manifests to a higher degree up there, highest degree. But it starts in the very beginning of bhakti.
But then we also see that before the rasa dance, the gopis become proud.
Proud.
Oh, Krishna's with me, dancing with me, and then he disappears.
So this we can't take as material pride or material ego or whatever. It's part of their, we could say their, part of the rasa, and also there's a level within prema as we go up. It's called man. So man refers to anger and pride. So, and Radha is a special example of that. She gets angry at Krishna and refuses to see him. So it's a special part of Madhurya Rasa particularly. So this is spiritual. It's a spiritual bhava, not something material anger. So therefore we can't equate it with material pride or anything. And so it's there manifest as part of the rasa and part of the lila. Okay. Oh.
You mentioned how Prahlad Maharaj lives in Sutara Loka.
Yeah.
He's always lived there, or?
Well, he didn't start out there, but he got that blessing from the Lord to stay there. So he stays there for now.
And Nishingadev didn't appear there?
No.
He appeared
Well, they say here, but some people say heavenly planets also, so definitely not in the hellish planets.
because in the 5th canto it says also how Prahlad Maharaj worships Nishingadev in Harivarsha.
Yeah, that's on our that's in another those varshas here. Let's see, Harivarsha. It's one of the above varshas here. Here we are. It's Harivarsha. So Hanuman worships Rama in Kimpurusha Varsha, and then we find Nrsimhadev, Prahlad worships Nrsimhadev in Harivarsha. That's the next varsha.
He'll be in both parts then. He'll be in Sutala Loka and in Harivarsha.
Can be, yeah, no problem. Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna.